The housing market has been taking a beating in the last few years. The double punch of record high mortgage rates and record low home supply has dealt a tough blow to many aspiring home buyers in 2023 and 2024. However, things are not looking too promising in 2025 as well. Mortgage rates are still exceptionally high, with the national average floating around 7%. Now, on top of that, if you do like a house, there is serious competition, like bidding wars, waived inspections, all cash offers. It's truly wild out there. But if you're thinking, okay, maybe I'll just rent for now, think that again. Rental prices have also been climbing steadily, up over 30% in the last 5 years in major US cities. In fact, in New York, a studio apartment rents out for an average of $3,300 if you even get approved for one. So, with the big swings in both mortgage rates and rental costs, the big question is, should you buy or should you rent? Well, to answer this question, I went to the roots of the housing crisis and discovered aspects that shocked me and my understanding of the mortgage market. So stay with me till the end of this video as we uncover some shocking revelations that will help you if you are stuck in this buy versus rent decision in 2025. Hi, I'm Amber and I'm a banker based in New York City. In this channel, we make content about finance that impacts the day-to-day life of average people. If you like the content, all I request of you is to please press the like button and subscribe to the channel, as it helps keep the channel relevant so we keep producing meaningful content in the future. Now, there's this general belief that by renting you're throwing away money and buying a home is always a good investment. While there is some truth to those statements, they don't tell you the whole story. In order to understand this, let's break it down, starting with the cost of owning a home in the US. The first cost which comes to mind when buying a home is down payment. A lender's typical requirement for a home loan is 10% to 20% down payment. While people do finance their homes with a 5% down, and companies like Rocket Mortgage and Zillow offer options with as low as 1% down payment, it's important to remember that the lower your down payment is, the higher your interest rate would be. Even if you go with a 10% deposit, that's a substantial sum of money which can add up to tens of thousands of dollars. Next, if you put down payment less than 20%, you likely need to pay for a PMI or private mortgage insurance. This is basically an extra cost on top of your mortgage to help protect the lender if you stop making payments. PMI typically costs between 0.5% to 2% of your mortgage balance annually. The third component is, of course, the dreaded mortgage interest rate, which is essentially the cost of borrowing money. Right now, rates are over 7%, the highest they have been in 20 years, which means that every year 7% of your mortgage balance goes to interest, which adds up quickly. Mortgage loans are structured in a way that you pay off interest the highest during your initial years and then taper off towards the tail end of the contract, which means that the first couple of years you will hardly see any movement in your principal balance. And then there are property taxes. These can range from as low as 0.3% of your home's value in Hawaii to as high as 2.5% in my home state of New Jersey, adding several thousands of dollars to your bottom line annual expenses. Next, you'll need to add protection to your house in case of disasters like earthquakes, fires, and floods, and for that, you need home insurance. According to MarketWatch, the average insurance is close to $2,500 per year, which roughly equals to $208 on a monthly basis. And last and the final cost is basically repairs and maintenance. Everything in your home has a lifespan. Roofs need replacing every 20 years, which can cost you upwards of $12,000. Water heaters, gas systems need replacing every 10 years, that can cost you $2,500. It's a good idea to budget 1 to 2% of your home's value each year for those eventual repairs. With that being said, let's break down on what it actually costs to own a home in the United States. For this example, let's use the average cost of a home in the US, which is roughly equal to $400,000. If you put 10% down payment, that's roughly $40,000 out of your pocket. This leaves you with a $360,000 as loan. With a 7% interest rate, your monthly mortgage payment would be somewhere around $2,400. Next, if you have PMI or private mortgage insurance, it adds up to about $150 a month. Then you need to account for property taxes, which average about 1.15% of your home's value. For a $400,000 home, that's roughly equal to $383 a month. Home insurance will likely cost you around $200 a month. And finally, you should budget for repair and maintenance. A good rule of thumb is to set aside 1% of your home's value each year. For a $400,000 home, that's roughly $330 a month. Now, adding all these costs together, your total monthly out-of-pocket expense to own a $400,000 home in the US would somewhere come around to $3,463. However, this is not the final cost. You have to also factor in the opportunity cost of down payments you have made, which at an average ROI of 6% gives you roughly $200 per month. So in effect, your net adjusted monthly outflow would be $3,663. Now let's look at the exclusions. Since you own a home, you're entitled to some benefit that you get in the form of tax savings and equity. When you make monthly payment, you're also paying off principal value of the loan as well. In the first year, this is roughly equal to $3,656 or $304 a month. Next, the IRS allows you to reduce the mortgage interest that you pay against your income up to the first $750,000 of a loan. Although since in doing so, you'll be choosing between standard deduction and itemized deduction, the true net cost of saving is roughly around $2,500 a year or like $204 a month. And lastly, your home goes up in value. However, there are inflationary elements that try to mitigate the impact, but for simplicity purposes of this video, let's assume your house appreciates by an average of 1% per year, which is roughly $330 a month. Adjusting the above exclusions, we are left with an effective payment of $2,825 per month. Now, in order to make the argument in favor of buying, we have to look at rental options for houses that are valued at $400,000 and have rental costs that are above $2,825. Now, I live in New Jersey, which has one of the highest home prices and rentals in the entire nation. And even here, it's easy to find houses with a value of $400,000 renting out for less than $2,800 per month. For instance, look at this house in Newark at close to $400,000, which is 1,000 square feet. A few doors down, you can rent a better house for $2,200 a month. This is not just specific to Newark or New Jersey. You can find similar scenarios all over the country where renting a place is much cheaper than buying. In fact, look at my place. This apartment sells for $800,000, which means if I were to buy this place, I have to pay $5,000 a month minimum for mortgage. However, my rent is $3,700 a month and I don't have to worry about any repairs, issues, and I also have amenities at my disposal like the pool, grill, and the gym, which save costs additionally. So now that we know the cost differential, when does it make sense to buy a house at all? The short answer is if you intend to live in your house for more than 10 years. The average American lives in their home from 8 years to 15 years, with a median being 13 years. So I did a rough calculation, and it turns out that if you own your home for any time in excess of 12 years, the cost of ownership decreases under $2,000 for a $400,000 house, and the equity built up is big enough to justify the cost of owning. This, of course, is a very high-level calculation and does not take into account economic factors or life events such as substantial repair on the house. And this is also not all black and white, as there are various variables that are outside our control, like interest rates, insurance rate, property taxes, and inventory. Now, putting down my argument on renting over buying, on a high-level basis, these 5 scenarios favor renting over owning. First is duration of living. If you plan to stay in your home for less than 7 years, renting is cheaper. You avoid closing costs, commissions, escrow fees, title fees, and other expenses that can total up to 6% of the cost of the home. Unless your home's value rises significantly, it's very unlikely that you will recoup these costs. Second is better return on investment. Renting is smarter if your down payment can earn a higher return elsewhere. For instance, if investing $40,000 in a bear market in a stock or your business yields a better return, then it's a stronger financial move than buying a home. Third is market conditions. If you believe the housing market will decline or remain flat, renting is a safer bet. Despite recent trends of rising home prices, even with high mortgage rates, future market conditions are still uncertain. 4 is less responsibility. Renting means fewer responsibilities and lower upfront costs. The landlord handles property taxes, insurance rate increases, and maintenance. You just pay your rent and any damages that you directly cause. Fifth and the most important one is flexibility. Renting offers more flexibility. When your lease is up, you just pick up your bags and move without the hassle of selling a home or paying commission or fees. But of course, renting has its own limitations. You are at the mercy of your landlord, who can raise your rent unexpectedly even above market rates after the first year. Your rent isn't fixed and can fluctuate with the market, and in the future, if house prices don't come down, rents might just continue to rise. And lastly is limited customization, where you can't personalize your rental property to fit your lifestyle. Similar to renting, there are scenarios that favor buying. First is long-term advantage. Owning a home tends to be beneficial in the long run. Despite short-term market fluctuations, housing prices generally appreciate over time, making home ownership a good investment. Second is fixed monthly costs. When you own a home, you lock in your monthly mortgage payments until your home is paid off. Although property taxes, insurance, and maintenance can rise, your mortgage payment remains stable. And third is a psychological one, which is basically a sense of ownership. Owning a home provides a unique sense of freedom and stability. You can customize your home as you like without needing a landlord's approval, which adds a priceless value to your home ownership. However, there are some downsides to owning a home. First is tied up funds. A significant amount of money is locked into your home through down payments and mortgage payments, making these funds illiquid. You can't easily access this money without selling the property or refinancing. Second is uncertain market value. Home values aren't guaranteed to rise. Some areas might underperform, and there's a chance your home value would just stagnate or decrease over time. And third is the potential of being underwater. If property's values decline, you could end up owing more on your mortgage than your home is worth. This happened in 2008 and can make selling the home difficult without incurring a loss. So we covered a lot. To summarize the entire conversation that we have discussed till now, renting is usually better if you plan to live short term in the house for 7 to 8 years. Also, if you want to manage your cash flow without large upfront costs and if you need the flexibility of moving on short notice or changing your location based on your job, then renting is a superior option. Buying or owning a home is generally better if you plan to live long term in the house for 8 years and beyond. Also, ownership is better if you want to customize your place to your needs or your family's needs, and if you can find mortgage payments that provide stability and potential investment benefits, then owning is better too. Obviously, every situation is different, so this argument may or may not work for you. The rule of the thumb is to run the numbers beforehand to ensure your cash flow is not jeopardizing your financial goals and the house you are buying is not draining you dry. There are various tools available online like mortgage calculators, affordability estimates that can help you in making a decision that what works best for you and your family. Now, always remember the golden rule is that the mortgage should not be more than 30% of your take home pay. While in major cities you can flex this to 35% and in extreme cases to 40%, this comes at a cost of missing out on other financial goals that may be worth more later in life, like your 401ks and IRAs. So make a decision keeping the long-term perspective and ensure your retirement goals are not jeopardized. As usual, thank you for watching this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you have not done already. We have tons of new content coming your way, so please make sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of new content every Sunday and Wednesday. Till next week, take care, be well, and I will see you in the next video.